We'll record. Welcome everybody that are joining us on this call. You're going to be starting shortly. I appreciate that everyone has already put their phones on mute and cameras are on. Okay. Do you prefer? Hi, Bala. All right. I'm just going to mute them. Do you want to have phones or cameras on or off, Nicola?
I really, whatever's more comfortable. I'm happy either way.
Okay. All right. Fantastic. Great. So I want to wish everyone a very warm welcome to today's webinar. And we are MENA Speakers that are hosting. We're the leading speakers agency in the region that represent fantastic thought leaders, experts in their field that share knowledge that will help you on your way. And so we have done this as an initiative during these times where everyone is pretty much at home. Dubai is in lockdown, and so we have a lot of time to work on ourselves, personal development, preparing for what is right now, but also for what is going to come, because we know that this too shall pass, and we want to make sure that you are as prepared as possible for the future, for your career, for yourself, and your personal growth. And so we have a lot more webinars coming up throughout this period, so almost twice a week, and so you're more than welcome to be tuning in on those as well. And again, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Now, it would be really great if we tested the chat function, because that's where we would like for you to ask your questions. So in the chat, let's do this. Where are you calling in from? If you can tell me what city or what country you're in at this point in time in the chat, there's a chat button at the bottom. If you can press on that in the chat and tell me where you are at this point in time. I think everyone's still getting their coffees. All right, so we have our first response here. We have people, we have a number from Dubai. Hi. Okay, we have from the French Riviera, south of France. Okay, amazing. We have Bala from Dubai. So the rest of you, you can press the chat function, there's a button, and then just tell me where you're calling in from. All right, so we have a few more from Dubai. Great. And the same on Facebook. We will be monitoring the Facebook commentary from there as well, and then taking in questions along the line. All right, so we're not here to listen to me, we're here to listen to Nicola, a person who is an expert when it comes to relationships, complex relationships, and has helped hundreds, if not even thousands of people along the way in their journey. So I'm really gonna pass on the camera and the computer to you. Please give her a big virtual applaud. Nicola, the camera is yours.
Great, thank you. Hi everyone, thank you for tuning in. It's a real pleasure to be talking to you this morning. Happy Saturday. So I'm going to be talking about three main things to making working at home work for you. And if you're living with other people right now, making it work for your family. So I'm going to be covering three main areas today. The first area is the importance of structuring your day and planning and routine. I'm going to go into some stuff, what studies have shown in relation to that. Then I'm going to be talking about what to do to strengthen your relationships and how to, that's a relationship with yourself and how to look after yourself during this time and those relationships around you. And then I'm going to end with some communication skills and tips to support you to really make sure that your communication with your loved ones and if with your employer, if you're working for somebody else, or your business partners, customers, etc., is going well. So the first main thing that a lot of studies have shown, and I know that I really benefited from this myself when I moved from working in the corporate world to working from home, is really structuring and planning everything. Right now, there is so much that we cannot control. There is a lot of chaos, a lot of uncertainty around us. And so it's so great to just focus in on those things that we can control. So people that I'm working with and supporting are really starting to plan their whole day from the moment they wake up. They sit down. I mean, this is what I do. I sit down with my herbal tea and I literally write down, what 3 main things am I going to focus on that day? Because we can get overwhelmed. We can have a to-do list like this and it's just not realistic, or we can just not know where to start, or we can feel unmotivated with everything that's going on, especially sort of all the negativity or not being in contact with our teams, our employers if we're working. So asking yourself every day, what 3 main things can I focus on? And then arranging those 3 things in relation to your own personal productivity clock. So for me, things that take me high energy, creating videos, creating therapy sessions that are live, for me, like, I prefer to do that in the morning because I'm at my best in the morning times. Other people, they're best in the evenings or the afternoons. So choosing those 3 main projects in relation to your own body clock is really important. And also having a morning routine. What do you do in the morning that sets you up? Because if we get our morning routines right, whether that's on your own sort of work routine, or your routine with your family or with your husband or wife, if there's the 2 of you, how to set up your routine, because how you start the day then really has a big impact on the rest of the day. So for some couples that I'm working with at the moment, their routine is no phones in the morning until we've all had breakfast together, we've all discussed what we're going to be doing, who's going to need what space when, and they plan it like that. Sometimes people, if you're living alone right now, planning, okay, when am I going to be working? When am I going to have breaks? And what am I going to do for connecting with other people? Because if you're living alone right now, it could be quite lonely. And so having times where you can just relax and unwind. Most of the people that I work with definitely also benefit from screen break time. So times in the day where you say, I'm not going to look at my phone, I'm not going to be on my laptop, I'm not going to watch TV, I just need to be in silence. And especially if you are living all in one house at the moment, that need for solitude is a basic human need that we all have. Some people more. The more introverted you are, the more you will need that silence, that alone time. So communicating that as well, planning that in, and being able to structure your day that supports you. And then there's also planning for the next month or 90 days. So it's great to plan in the day. And sometimes people I'm working with at the moment, they're also planning their food. I know that when I transitioned from working in the corporate environment to working for myself, having my own business, I was in the fridge every minute. I was making myself a coffee every minute. I was like buzzing with too much coffee. So also sometimes it can help, if you're not used to it, like planning what you're going to eat or how many coffees you're going to have, if that serves you. So yeah, that's really the planning. So I was talking about planning long term as well. So with so much uncertainty, we don't know at the moment when we're going to be able to go back to our normal life and what it's going to look like. So the thing to ask yourself that I find very useful, which I got from Robin Sharma, who wrote the book, The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari. He's great. And he talks about asking yourself, what needs to happen between now and the end of the next 90 days for this to have been the best 90 days in my personal life and in my professional life. So what needs to happen? And then once you have that goal of, okay, if this happened in the next 3 months, that would make me so happy, or I'd really be where I want to be in your career, in your own business, if you've got your own business, or in your personal relationship life, then you can start to also make sure that, yes, you're planning the day, but 2, you're using this time to get to a very important goal. So that's really around the routine and planning. And then the last thing I wanted to mention about this is a lot of studies have shown that people that really struggle with unemployment is they either get very obsessed in working too much and they're sending CVs and they're in a panic and they're just overloading themselves in the screen world, shall we say. So they're working too much, which is why planning is important. Or as they're adjusting to working from home and not having any job, but they're focusing on finding a job, they fall into the trap, which I know I did at the beginning as well, of just not having that morning routine of getting ready, of getting dressed. Our energy is so different. So if you're working from home, making sure that you're still having that routine where you are dressing for work, it can really help you. Obviously, you don't need to dress in your tie and suit, but just really making sure that you are getting out of your pajamas, because it can be very tempting. Well, if no one's going to see me, and if I'm in my own schedule, not to do that. But studies have shown that productivity is really affected by what we're wearing and by our sort of getting ready routine. And I think the reason for that is because our clothes carry energy. And when we're sitting upright, when we're ready for work, it changes and shifts our mindset. So that's around routine and planning. Now I'm going to talk to you about strengthening your relationship with yourself and with others around you. Because right now, we're in a time where we need to be making sure that we are being our best selves, that we're resilient, that we're not getting bogged down into the negativity and into the uncertainty, and not letting it take us over. So there's a really great framework which can just help us focus on this, and it's 5 A's by David Rico. And so what he talks about is there are 5 things to have a really great, thriving relationship with ourselves and with those around us. And if we focus on these 5 things, then we're going to feel good in ourselves. We're going to have a good life, and we're going to be our best version of ourselves if we're giving these 5 to ourselves, and if we're giving those to those that we love. So in the house at the moment, your children, your parents, if you're living with any parents, a couple of couples I'm working with at the moment are living with their parents, and with your husband, wife, girlfriend, boyfriend. So what are these 5 A's? The first one is attention. So are you giving yourself attention? So what this really means in terms of if you're living by yourself at the moment, or but either way for yourself, is, am I looking after my needs? Am I listening to my needs? Am I focusing on my needs? Am I listening to what my body is needing, let's say? So this could be, am I sleeping well enough? Am I having enough breaks? Am I feeding my needs? And then in a relationship with those that you're living with at the moment, are you giving them attention? Are you listening to their needs? Are you thinking about their needs? So attention to needs is the first one, attention. The second one is acceptance. When we accept ourselves, when we accept those around us, we feel at peace. And so accepting yourself, I really feel at the moment, the most important thing you can do for yourself is to accept that some days your best is going to be up here, and some days your best is going to be down here because of whatever reason. Maybe you didn't sleep as well, maybe it's strange getting used to this new change, or you've had a fallout with someone that you live with. You know, sometimes our best is a little bit lower. And accepting that and loving ourselves through that, and accepting that as long as I'm doing my best each day, and my best may change, then that's okay. So acceptance is the second of the 5 A's. The third A is appreciation. Are you appreciating yourself? Are you praising yourself? I know myself, when I was getting used to this whole changing all of my clients into working on Zoom, I was, getting annoyed at myself for not being great at technology. And then I caught myself and I thought, how is this helping me? How is this criticism supporting me to be the best I can, supporting me to adapt to the change? So making sure that the words that you're saying to yourself, that you're praising yourself, great, you're adjusting well, you're doing well, you're perhaps, missing your family, missing your friends, missing the routine, missing work. And so just really making sure that the language that you're using to yourself, you're appreciating yourself. And then with your relationship with your husband, wife, girlfriend, boyfriend, children, making sure you're giving praise. We all know that to motivate children, the best thing to do is to give them one area of growth and feedback, and then say a few positives. In the work environment, we're taught to do that feedback sandwich, where you say, this is what you've done great, this is what I would love you to improve, and then an overall positive comment. So really doing that with your own relationships at home. Now, I know that may sound a little bit cheesy, but it really can make a difference. It really can create a happy home, a happy environment, because most people that come to me for the counselling support always feel not appreciated, always feel that their efforts are going to waste, that they're not valued. So giving appreciation to others, giving appreciation to yourself is a key way to support yourself and your home environment during this time. So that's the third A. The fourth A is affection. So affection is non-sexual touch, like holding yourself, it's cuddling your children or family members, and holding hands, massages. So affection for yourself is really looking after your body. Are you looking after your body? Are you having nice showers or baths and massaging? Are you feeding yourself good food? Are you exercising? Are you giving affection? Are you giving love to your body? This is an essential part of us. Our body obviously holds our soul, holds our mind. So we want to be making sure that we're not neglecting our bodies. And there's so many free exercise classes now we can do online. So it's really great to keep ourselves moving. This can really help our mind and our focus and our productivity as well, and shift any energy that we don't want to keep in us. And so affection, obviously in a relationship, like I mentioned, any kind of cuddling and holding and supporting each other with affection. A lot of people, affection is one of their most important needs. So that's affection. And then the last A that is very important for giving ourselves and for giving others around us is allowing. So do you allow yourself to be who you are? Allowing is so important. And do you allow your partner or your children to be them, to have their personality, to be themselves, to have their own interests, to do their own thing, how they want to do it? You know, what comes up sometimes with my couples that I do counselling with is, frustration over how one person packs the dishwasher or how one person folds the clothes, or are you allowing each other to just do things in your own way, in your own rhythm? So those are like the 5 A's that can really help. Are you giving those to yourself? Are you giving those to those around you for having a thriving home, a positive environment? And then there's communication. So in my counselling, I normally go through 18 principles of great communication. And for the sake of today, I'm just going to talk through a few of them. But let's first of all talk about communication around working from home right now. It's really important that you are sharing and having quality time for conversations. So this is something that comes into that planning. Planning when you are going to have some quality time as a family, when you're going to have some quality time as a couple, and if you're not with your partner at the moment, when you're going to have some quality time to talk online. So this is a key. Also, when you're communicating, really communicating what you're truly feeling and what you're truly needing. For example, saying, I really need to focus on this work. So when I am in this position, or when I'm in this room, or when the door is shut, please don't bother me. It's really great to communicate things like this. Or if I don't answer you, it's because I'm really focusing in. I know that I'm one of these people. When I'm working, I can't be interrupted. As much as I like the chit chat around me, if I'm really focused, it will just destroy my flow, and then it will take me ages to get back into that kind of flow, like into being productive in that task that I'm doing. So I will share, please, when I'm in this room, if the door is shut, or if I'm looking like I'm concentrating, please, can you leave what you need to leave, or share what you need to share with me later. Other people, they really love talking all the time. They're working, they're talking, they can multitask. Some of us can't. So it's communicating that. And then communicating around household tasks. So we don't want the washing or the cooking or the cleaning to affect you and affect your home, bring negative energy into the home. So it's very important to make sure that you have a structure around this and are communicating around this. Some of the families that I'm working with at the moment are just saying, okay, this time during the day, maybe it's like half an hour or an hour, everybody in the family blitzes the home, does all the cooking, does all the cleaning. It's like a cleaning house environment, positive time where they put on some music and they just really create that space to get things done. So communicating around that. And of course, with the e-learning at home, negotiating and communicating, okay, today is a really busy day for me in my business or at my work. Can you look after the children and supervise their e-learning today? And I'll do it tomorrow. So making sure that this comes into your planning and this comes into your communication. So communication is so important. And when I'm working with couples, I always say to them, you need to at least have 10 hours minimum a week, just you time. So just the two of you. So without anybody else around you, so that you can really strengthen and build your couple. So having things to look forward to is also a very important thing in terms of the planning that I mentioned at the beginning. Because if we don't have things to look forward to, this is when we can start to feel a little bit deflated. So making sure every day there's something that you're looking forward to, whatever that may be, a comedy, playing some music, some family time, some couple time, some zoning out and you time, making sure you have something to look forward to. So communication tips. I'm just going to share a few of the 18. So I think the one that is probably a very simple one to apply is the kind of feedback model, sharing instead of criticizing. When we criticize ourselves, we are often less productive. It brings our energy down and it doesn't bring out the best in us. When we criticize another person, it kills love, it kills passion, and again, it generates a negativity in the home. So we want to be making sure that we're not in a criticizing, complaining kind of environment. Now, of course, there may be things that are upsetting you, that are triggering you. So the best way to share this is following this structure. You probably have heard this before, but sometimes recapping on the basics is so important. So this is really where you're saying, okay, focusing on the behavior. When you leave the clothes on the floor, when you're on your phone in the evenings, when you are focusing on the behavior, this is the first part of structuring the feedback that you want to give. Focus on the behavior instead of saying you're lazy, you're controlling, you don't love me, you don't care about me. When we make you statements, when we say you always, you never, that is taken as a criticism, and the person often will not listen. They'll just shut down. So we want to be making sure that we're giving that feedback, we're sharing what it is doing to us. So the first thing is focusing on the behavior rather than labeling or judging their personality. The second part is saying, I feel. So again, if you say to somebody, you make me feel, they're not going to listen. But when you say, I feel, so when you do this, I feel, how it makes you feel. And then the third part is sharing what you would like instead. Now, this may sound very obvious, but so many couples, they don't actually share with somebody what they really want instead. So what they're doing is they're just complaining, they're criticizing, and then the next day they're complaining and criticizing, and nothing is changing because they're not asking for that positive change. And when we ask for that positive change, this is where we can then move forward. This is where you can overcome problems and work together as a team. So instead of criticizing or complaining, putting yourself down, putting someone else down, saying to them, okay, when you do this behavior, I feel, and then what you want instead. Very simple, but it makes such a difference. The words that we use, how we phrase things, can mean the difference between days of the silent treatment, avoiding angry outbursts, and having a great environment, positive environment. The second communication thing I wanted to share is a really interesting study by one of the most famous marriage experts. He studied all different couples' arguments that are married, and he looked at them in depth, and he went into them and he really explored them. And he found that of all the marriage talk arguments, he looked at each one. He's got a few pages on each one, and he looked at, are they resolvable or not? And guess what percentage of marital arguments are not resolvable? 70%. So 70% of the time, it's better to just agree to disagree, because you cannot talk someone into your way of thinking. It's absolutely pointless. So just agreeing on issues that is not urgent, that are not life-changing or really, really crucial, to just be like, okay, we agree to disagree. You've got your way, I've got my way. Let's not let it come between us, especially if it is something very small. So that's another technique. And then the last one I wanted to talk about, which is a real game changer, and that is validating one another. So often in relationships, we can argue about things because we really feel that we're right. And we may say, well, I think I'm right because of 1, 2, and 3. And the other person will say, well, I think I'm right because of 1, 2, and 3. And couples end up not listening to each other, or parent and child end up not listening to each other, because they're both trying to say, well, my way is right. And the other person saying, well, my way is right. They're listening, but they're not moving together, because they just keep repeating why they think they're right. And then maybe coming up with more evidence or more cases to prove their point. So when you validate someone, what you're doing is you're then calming things down, and then you're able to move forward together. So a validation statement could be any one of these. It could be, what you're saying makes sense. I can see it from your point of view. I could see why that upsets you. I could see why you're irritated by this. When we acknowledge somebody, when we say to them, you have a valid point, what you're saying is valid, I can see that you have, I can see how you got to that conclusion. That person can then be like, great. Now you understand me. I don't need to keep on pushing my point. I don't need to keep on defending myself. And this just creates more peace in the home. Because when we have a peaceful home, we feel peace in ourselves, we're much happier, the home is much happier, and we're more productive, and working from home works really well. And also that person can think, great, you don't think I'm crazy, because it can be very frustrating if we're sharing something and the other person's like, no, don't get it, and we're trying to say it again and again. So just saying, yeah, I really can see your point of view. So that is what I'm going to finish on today. I'd love to hear if you have any questions on it for me, on the planning, the routine, on the communication, on the 5 A's I talked about, or anything else regarding working from home, relationships. I'd love to answer your questions. I'm just going to look at the chat box now to do that. So great. So does anyone have any questions for me?
So Nicola, I can start with a question for you as they're coming in the chat. I know that a lot of people are being triggered by being in a lockdown situation and are not feeling personally great. And it's of course being taken out on your partner or the people around you. And so what are some ways to manage through that? Because this is an unusual situation. And I don't think many people are used to being in this situation. So how do you manage through being triggered like that?
Sure. So that's a really great question. And you're right, like it's so unusual for so many couples. They're not used to spending so much time together. So making sure that you have alone time. Like, it is a really important thing to have space to just be, and so just saying to each other, okay, one couple I'm working with, for example, are saying to each other, you can have the bedroom until 1 p.m. on one day of the weekend, and I'll have the bedroom till 1 p.m. on the other day of the weekend. So they literally have this whole long morning where they can just be in that room by themselves. So they can just be lazy and lay in bed and watch TV in bed. They can do their own little exercise routine, watching one of the exercise classes that you can just do online at the moment. But they're just having at least half a day, a whole bedroom to themselves, where the children don't interrupt them, where their spouse doesn't interrupt them, and they can just do their own thing. So that can be very important. Me personally, definitely moving helps me just release any negativity, any stress in the body, because, or in the mind, because if we're not moving, this can also affect us.
Great, thank you. We have a lot of questions now dropping in the chat, so please feel free to.
Okay, sure. So I've got a question here for how to improve on communication among work colleagues from distant locations. So that's a really great question, and it can be quite strange adjusting to not being in close communication with those that you work with. So ideally, setting times during the week where you can or jump on a Zoom call is very efficient. Sometimes things can be misunderstood in emails or through WhatsApping messages. So what can help is to leave voicemails rather than emails and messaging. This can help with that communication. So leaving each other, if you've got each other's WhatsApps and that's an agreement that you have, then doing that is important. It's also very important to communicate if what is the way things are working isn't working for you. If the way things are working aren't working for the team, it's not leading to much productivity, or it's leading to this, you know, there's a lot of fallout in terms of the streamlined system, then it's communicating that, sharing your ideas. Okay, I feel that we need to be communicating every day. I feel that I need a report from you every day, what you're focusing on. I'll share what I'm focusing on. Really, it's communicating with each other how you want to communicate, and also transparency. The more we know what people are doing, the more transparent we are, the more trust there's going to be, and the more the team is going to be able to work together when working apart. So I hope that answers that question. Feel free to let me know if there's any more on that. I'm going to have another one here from Amir. How to remain positive in the current situation? Well, that is a great one. So I have a dance Facebook group and meditation Facebook group. So I'm keeping myself positive by doing a free dance class every day, and I put that into the group. So that's keeping me positive. I really don't listen and get into the negative news. So my rule for myself is I check the coronavirus news once a day. And I update myself because I don't want to be completely out of touch, but I'm not getting absorbed into it. Because if we really allow ourselves, we can start to worry. We can start to worry about ourselves, about the financial future, about our loved ones being hurt or upset. So also making sure that you're tuning into the news whenever you need to, but not making it like a constant checking thing. Also, how I remain positive is I make sure that the last hour before bed, I'm not putting anything negative into my mind. Because whatever we put in our mind for the last hour before we sleep, our unconscious mind is then going to process that for the next 8 hours. So watching a light-hearted comedy, reading a positive book, talking to a loved one, doing something, listening to a meditation is a really great thing to do just before you sleep. So that's another thing to maintain positivity, and making sure that every day you are doing something that brings you joy, that makes you smile. For some people that's exercising, sometimes people that's cooking. What makes you smile? Doing something for yourself to look forward to every day. Yeah, so that's the question for that. So great, thank you. I'm glad that helped you with the communication. So just reading another question. So do you have any suggestions for activities couples can do together during isolation? So it really depends on your own personal interests. Sometimes it can be great to just watch some comedy together, as I mentioned, listen to music together, put on YouTube, learn a new recipe together, just anything that you would like to do. There's so many online learning platforms that are offering great courses. So maybe doing an online course together. Some couples that I've worked with, they've started doing a course on learning how to sell things on Amazon. And before, I worked with a couple that did that, and it ended up being their full-time business. The house is full of stock. You could be learning about astrology. That's what another couple that I'm working with are doing at the moment. They're learning about the planets, and that's an interest that they've got. So really finding a common interest, finding something new to learn, so that you can come out with this with perhaps a new skill. Playing a musical instrument is often one of the biggest things that comes up for people that they would love to do if they have more time. So maybe if you have a musical instrument at home that you haven't really been using or playing, doing that. And then there's board games, like sometimes it could be great to see this as like, okay, this is like a holiday at home. If you celebrate Christmas, okay, this is like Christmas. We're at home, we're playing games, or other religious festivals. Like, how can you use this time to be positive? How can you use this time to strengthen your relationships? So it's just really like looking at different activities that you can do to bring you closer, and maybe just changing it up, thinking, okay, I'm not sure if I'm going to like this online course, but let's give it a go. I'm not sure if I'm going to like this, but just coming up with ideas and trying different things until you find something useful or that brings you joy. So I'm just going to look at the other questions. Okay, so this is not a question. Thank you from Bassett. Not a question, but more of a comment. The problem that I face is focus, because apart from a spouse, I have a 3-year-old daughter as well, and she can be fairly unreasonable at times. Wow, yeah, I can't imagine how extra that can create noise in the home and attention, and of course it can be very difficult to focus. So couples that I've supported with this is really agreeing, okay, if you're a person like me, I need silence most of the time to focus. So maybe taking it in turns and saying, right, this is your turn to look after our daughter, this is your turn, and then, or son, and just giving yourself like focus time. That can be really a way. And then also maybe structuring it around their sleeping time as well. So maybe you are going to be working in the evening, and maybe you're going to be having time off during the daytime to play and to have fun with your child. So it's looking at, is the way that my day is structured supporting my focus, and how to adapt to focusing with the time zones and your work. So if you can change your day a bit so that you can suit and be in with your daughter or son that's 3, that can really help. So I have now, I've lost the chat box for some reason. So, it's come back. So I have another question here. How can couples avoid getting involved in arguments? Well, that is a really great question. So the first thing is to realize that what I mentioned earlier is that 70% of arguments are non-resolvable. 70% of the time, it's just saying, okay, we agree to disagree. So one of the things is just to agree, okay, we're agreeing to disagree. But of course, you don't want to get involved in arguments, but you need to share what you're feeling. You need to be able to communicate. So making sure that you are, first of all, sharing in a positive way anything that is on your mind. Ideally, setting a time, a day or a week, to have these conversations, to check in with each other and have a routine around it. So what do I mean? So maybe saying, okay, Thursday night or Friday night or Saturday night, this is where we'll talk about how the week's gone, what we've got coming up, and what's bothering you. Is there anything you want me to change? And giving each other behavioral requests, recommendations. When we do this, then we're both listening, and the person is much more likely to listen, and then you're able to find that way forward. So having a structured time where you know you're not going to be criticizing each other all the day, you're not going to get involved in those arguments all the time, but there's a dedicated time a week where you raise what you felt went well, what you want to change. Also, letting sometimes things go. If someone speaks to you in a horrible tone, if someone says things and it comes out in not a very friendly way, if it's a one-off, just allowing that to pass through you. Sometimes we wake up tired, sometimes things get to us, sometimes we read things that stress us out, and we're not our best versions of ourselves. And so when we accept someone for that, when we hold them and love them for that, and we don't hook ourselves on that, that can be very important. And also to switch our thinking to what are they doing that's positive. Sometimes in relationships we can be so focused on, oh, they're being horrible, they're not doing this, they're not doing that, and our mind is literally just focusing on all the negatives. And so just getting our mind to focus on all the positive things and giving appreciation. If we really want love, giving love. If we really want positive appreciation, giving that. Give what you want, and then this is often how it will come back to you. So I hope that helps. Just seeing if there's any more questions. So, a question from Uzma: which impact will what impact will the social distancing have on children? I mean, it's really unknown at the moment. We don't really know the impact. So of course, with it, if you mean in terms of education, I'm really not sure what impact that will have. In terms of socializing, I think, you know, if it's only going to be for a month or a few months, we can get children socializing with each other again, then that's going to be just a short-term thing, and hopefully they will bounce back from that. It's really unknown what effect it's going to have on the children, but just making sure that they are learning, that they're feeling loved, that they're feeling secure. Because if the parents are anxious, if the parents are stressed, children can feel that anxiety, they can feel that stress, and that's going to make them feel uncertain. And so that's giving them that routine, giving them that structure is really, really going to help them, because they like to have certainty and they like to feel that they know what is going to happen. And of course, we don't know what's going to happen at the moment. So giving them structure, telling them what's going to happen today, what's going to happen this week, and being positive is the best way to support them through this, and really using this time to really bond with them. Hope that's helpful. There's another question here. Is there a good way to receive feedback and acknowledge what was conveyed? Is there a good way to receive feedback and acknowledge? So yeah, definitely. So the way to receive feedback is to first listen. And that may sound really obvious, but showing that you're listening. So sometimes it can help to paraphrase back to somebody, okay, so what you're saying is this, but making sure that you are, you know, not on your phone when you're talking to them, like, yeah, giving them your attention. These days, what can often trigger an argument from being a discussion into escalating is when we're not giving each other attention. So looking at each other in the eyes, when someone is sharing a complaint, something they're upset about, really listening to them, looking at them, engaging, and then coming to a solution, saying, okay, I'm really sorry you feel that way. How about we do this? And suggesting something or asking something. This is a really great way to receive the feedback and to then ask more questions. Often what couples do, and so it can be a great thing to change this, is let's say we're having an argument right now. I am half listening to what you're saying, but in my head, I'm half preparing what I'm going to say back. So I'm like, in my defense, I'm thinking, okay, you've said this, I'm going to defend myself by saying this. So I'm only half listening to you and preparing an argument back. Then you're half listening to me, and then you're preparing your argument back. And then it just goes on and on and on and on. So what we want to do to break that back and forth cycle is to stop. When your partner is saying something to you, listening, and then once they've finished, saying, is there anything else? Or do you have any suggestions for how to overcome this? Like asking more questions rather than defending yourself. Because if you just start defending yourself, they may feel like you're not really listening, then they defend themselves, and then you'll defend yourself, and then you'll just be getting into an argument. When if you really listen to each other and come up with suggestions, this can really help you turn a corner and move forward, and really use this time to support one another and really help each other what you need. And there's a big difference between criticizing and sharing, okay, you're doing this, you're doing that, and standing up for yourself. Of course, if you need to stand up for yourself, you stand up for yourself, but you do that in a loving way. You do that in a way where you're saying, this is how I feel, this is why I've done this, and you're explaining it in a calm way without criticizing or judging or attacking, basically. So hopefully that helps you with the receiving. And the last thing I want to say about receiving, which I find very useful, is when your partner is saying something, or your child, teenager is saying something, saying to yourself first, or whilst they're talking, maybe they have a valid point. Maybe what they're saying is true, or maybe I need to listen to this. Because sometimes, especially if we've been with our partners for a long time, we could just think, oh, they're moaning again. We just switch off. Oh yeah, that thing again. And when couples come to me at that crisis point, often one or both in the couple have been saying, I'm unhappy about this, I'm unhappy about this, I'm unhappy about this, and they haven't listened. And then it gets to a point where they're like, right, this is it. And so we really need to be listening to each other. If someone says something, it's not going to go away. If someone says something they're unhappy about, they want changed, then we really must listen, because it's just going to get bigger and bigger and bigger, and they're going to start to feel frustrated or resentful because they're telling you what they need and you're just ignoring it. So making sure that you're not burying your head in the sand. If there are things that they would like you to change, listening, adapting to each other, supporting one another to make your home and your relationship the best it can be. I'm just going to go to the chat box now. So there's another question here saying, from Sheda, thank you. Once we have adjusted to the working from home environment, what could be challenges going into new normal once lockdowns are over? Well, that is a really great question, because sometimes if there is a heavy commute to work, if the office is being really productive, or you've been really productive, there may be a resistance to go back to the normal routines. This is going to be decided by each company, what they feel has worked. Have they been able to trust their employees working from home? Has the success been just as good working from home? So there may be more working from home schemes, or there may not be. Maybe some companies have seen, okay, this hasn't really worked for us. So there's going to be lots of different policies, but that's going to be depending on the company itself. I've definitely seen some people reach out to me and say, Nicola, is it strange that I'm enjoying the lockdown? Is it strange that I really don't want to go back to the office? I really am an introvert and I'm enjoying this alone time. And so there may be some people that need support to adjust back to working in an office environment. And then there are other people right now that are really struggling. They're very sociable and they like people being around them, and so they really can't wait to just jump back in. So again, it's unknown what challenges we're going to see, and it really is going to be based on the directors of the company, based on how they have seen their employees and the work been done. So I hope that helps, that question. Just going to have see if there's any more questions. I've got lots of compliments saying thank you and everything. So thank you so much, everyone. Thank you for tuning in. It's been a real pleasure. If you would like to join my Facebook group, which is focusing on the law of attraction, it's got meditations in there, a dance class every day. Not sure if dancing is your thing, but it's good for all the family. You're welcome. Just send me a message, and all of my relationship information, free gifts, is on my website as well. If I'm allowed to share that, nicolabeer.com.
Yes, of course. Nicola, thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule to do this and for sharing all these insights. Very valuable. especially in these times where relationships are being challenged. And I want to thank everyone else for joining in on this call and for taking time out of your schedule to educate and empower yourself further and upskill yourself. Now, you are more than welcome to shoot out any questions to Nicola, to us directly, if you have anything relationship related you want to discuss, or if you even would like to have your own coaching, then feel free to reach out and we'll be so happy to help you and support you on your journey. Now, we have a few more webinars coming up, so stay connected and I wish you a fantastic day onwards. Nicola, thank you again. All the attendees on Facebook, on Zoom, have a fantastic continuation of the day. All right, thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Thank you.